All right, so I wanted to show you this last one is the actual class that I did for the juniors in fall 2019, which for the marketing people. The way I structured it is pretty simple. The first 2 weeks were a lot of in-class activities that didn't really require a lot of online, but I did create this module on LinkedIn and Handshake on how people can improve their LinkedIn, and then how they can use Handshake, which I know that actually I think Natalie actually reached out to me through Handshake and LinkedIn. So definitely important things to have, tools that are very necessary. Um, and I actually use a combination of questions, so people can reference videos based on their questions, um, justifying the need for these things, and again, instructions on how to create their own profiles. This is probably more of the main class. So these are probably the three biggest topics that we wanted to talk about in this class, and we condensed this class into a term, so it was only a month long virtually, the content that was necessary. So we had interview preparation, which are PAR stories, problem, action, results, actual interview practice, and then finally the career plan that they were going to take everything they've learned into one place. So the way I actually structured this was I combined other resources like Gallup's Strengths Finder to say, look, for you to be able to talk about relevant stories, you need to know your strengths and you need to know what you're good at. So that way, when you tell a story and they challenge you on it, you're able to double down, and you're not just telling stories that, are full of hot air. So this is a topic that I call self-awareness, or getting to know yourself, which I talk about in a later chapter. But basically, I'm introducing a psychology concept of getting to know who you are and what you're good at. And then so that gets people prepared mentally for this next exercise, which is explaining how par stories work, and then finally breaking down par stories by helping them have a brainstorming activity. Finally, taking everything they've compiled and creating actual par stories, and then finally like a little cheat sheet for them to take to interviews. And so what this kind of looks like is briefly, I'll just flip through the pages as fast as possible. I explain what strengths are. I give them video content explaining what it is. So now you're having different methods of media, text, video, to help them understand it. And then we assign them to do the assessment and upload it. Because I know not everybody's going to read the book, which was assigned, I was like, hey, here's a summary of the book. Go ahead and read what Strengths Finder is all about. That way you can feel more confident about it. And so here is another example of me in my philosophy of learning and the path of least resistance, basically. I created very complex documents that would help them create par stories. And in this case, I created videos to explain the assignment. These videos are less than 4 minutes. But because I created these videos of a video dedicated just to explain an assignment, which nobody ever does. They'll have like 2-sentence instructions. We did not have one out of the 100+ people email us asking for help on the assignment. The help was here. I took 4 minutes of my time to create this video, and it saved countless headaches from students, countless emails that we'd have to respond to, people coming in complaining, people not doing it, just because I took some time to create a video explaining something. For me, this is such an obvious thing. I think all professors should do. I can't count how many assignments don't make sense, and you have to wait until the TA responds or the next class. And why would we waste precious time and tuition money waiting for an email response when you could do this? So that's what I did, and it was a huge success. We never had people emailing us for that as assignment. some more tips on interview preparation for their own joy. And now I'm explaining, why parse stories are important. And then another summary of one of the worksheets. I had 3 different worksheets. And then finally, in Lucidchart, I created the thought process behind why these assignments are important. So you have brainstorming, you have building the actual parse stories, and finally, the little cheat sheet. Doing all of this, you have people who are extremely skeptical in the beginning saying, why am I doing this? Like, what's the point? Like, I don't even care. But having gone through the why, having gone to the how, having gone through the what, basically all the questions, at some point they're going to be like, well, I think I get it, and maybe I'm lazy, but I'll do it. And this is what you have is I'm trying to combine logic with reasoning with psychology of, I guess laziness and what is visually stimulating. How do you teach people with different learning styles? Just combining all of that. And that's a product of this. I've given so many different media types for them to learn. And so I think the first one actually that I showed you was a summary of all of the worksheets. So now it's the actual breakdown. So this is the brainstorming video. Here is the actual assignment that, again, I created. I created this all customized myself. So actual learning documents or worksheet documents for them to learn with. The assignment upload. And then again, same process. A video explaining the worksheet, the actual worksheet, which this is the breakdown of parse stories. And what's amazing that I will say is that students, the number one thing that they give excellent feedback for, this is the last doc, is the parse stories. And you can see how I took no chances with this module. I just broke everything down as much as you could break something down so that there would be no questions. And when there's no questions, that means like learning increases, that people actually are able to learn. And so that learning leads to productivity, and productivity leads to results. And finally, results are what we want, right? So after I've created so many learning exercises, it's time to apply, because that's also another learning opportunity. So we have something called Go React, which is where people go in and they record themselves. They record themselves actually doing their parse stories. And this is an example of people that did their parse stories. And some of them are kind of funny, but yeah, so all of these things. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention on those videos, I guess I'll show you really quick. I guess maybe I can't hop back in. All of these videos where they actually created a video of themselves doing their parse stories, they actually were required to interact with each other. So they actually wrote comments saying, hey, you did this great. The introduction is great. I think you should maybe do this or that. By the end of this entire experience, students have learned, applied, asked questions, reapplied, and evaluated others that by the end of all of this, they have learned way more about this topic than they would have ever learned if they just sat there, listened to a lecture, know that it's important, and then never touch it again. Again, this just goes back to my philosophy of learning and breaking everything down to the molecule, creating the content, and then setting expectations. So I don't want to take too much of your time and break everything down, but that was the PAR. This is the explanation of the actual practices we did in mock interviews, and then also the career plan that we created to help them understand why they want what they want from their career and how they can actually create a plan out of that. So this is the most recent and solid example of in my instructional designer kind of role with BYU at the business school is this, and I believe I've taken so many different principles together, and that's kind of where I'm at. So yeah.